Welcome back to Virteva's Let's Talk podcast. It's episode 30, and on this month's episode, we're going to be breaking down everything new coming soon to Microsoft 365 Copilot as part of the spring Wave 2 announcements. So we're going to have a little bit of a shorter show this week. Unfortunately, Holly's traveling for work this week, so kind of last minute thing came up. She wasn't able to make the podcast this week, but you're still going to have me. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of go through and break down a few different topics today. I know that Holly really wanted to highlight, and this has been coming up in the workshops that I do as well on Copilot, is that, there's a lot of questions around what are the different versions of Copilot? What are the pricing tiers? So we're going to start off kind of talking about that. So let's jump into it. So before we get into kind of the Wave 2 spring announcements, I wanted to highlight on the different versions of Copilot. So if you're using Copilot as a consumer or even as a business, you have two different methods of using Copilot. You can use kind of this standard vanilla version of Copilot at the consumer level, which is going to allow you to interact with Copilot directly through a web page, through your phone, through one of the different Microsoft apps that are available out there for Copilot, whether it be the 365 version or just the Windows Copilot app. And again, your experience may vary depending on how you're using it and what type of account that you're using. Or you can use the other side of Copilot, which is the enterprise or the business version of it, which is a very similar experience. And I'll log in here real quick just so you can see what it looks like. And this is that more grounded commercial version of Copilot, which again, if I kind of hover up here, you can see that it has enterprise data protection involved. And over on that right-hand side panel, you can kind of see all the different agent type experience that are available to you, as well as, again, it's going to look a little bit different. If you're taking a look kind of at the sidebar here, you have access to kind of go to home, which is your office homepage. You have access to Copilot Actions, though. I'm in the targeted release. That's actually going to be going away very soon. We hardly knew Copilot Actions. And then you have the ability to create, access your OneDrive, and kind of change your settings, as well as prompt control and the ability to kind of upload and add content within your own environment. And that's the next important piece that I wanted to cover here as well, is when you have the consumer version of Copilot, you have the ability that even if you don't have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, which is that expensive $365 a year license type, you can still use some of that grounded functionality and agent type functionality through the new message consumption packs, which start at $200 per message pack, which gets you 25,000 messages. Or you can use pay-as-you-go pricing, which will give you the ability to basically turn on Azure-based consumption licensing. And then as you're using messages and you're interacting with Copilot and uploading files and trying to ground it in your data, you're consuming those credits on the Azure side, and then you're getting a bill at the end of the month. And again, we've talked about this before on the show. I think that the way to go is if you want to kind of dip your toe in and you want to kind of understand how you can take advantage of some of these Copilot features that are outside of just the kind of the generic, the vanilla versions, and you want to be able to upload files and ground it a little bit more in your tenant data, the way to go is start with message packs. Pay as you go without knowing how you're using it or without kind of limiting it to a very small user set can put you in a weird situation at the end of the month where your finance department might end up getting a very big bill. So I would advise against kind of moving in that direction with it and looking at kind of those message packs to start to kind of get used to it. Now, again, the ultimate version of Copilot, the version of Copilot that Microsoft wants you to buy, is this $30 per user per month version, which is about $360 to $365 per year per user. This is taking the Copilot experience to the next level, and you're getting kind of the same enterprise data protection version of it here. But what you're also getting is you're getting a Copilot across Outlook, Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of your Microsoft 365 apps. Plus, you're also getting the additional grounding capabilities within your own tenants' data. So, that again is kind of the high level. We've covered it on the show before, but I think that it's important to know, and Holly really wanted to stress in this month's podcast, that there is a free version of Copilot that you can use, and it varies tier to tier, and there's different ways that you can experience it. As we go through now and we start talking about the spring updates, what we're really going to be focusing in on is everything new that's coming both from an agent perspective as well as improvements that they're making across the app. So let's jump into that piece now. So at the end of April, Microsoft released some new information on what to expect coming out of Copilot. A lot of these features and functionality haven't actually been fully released and introduced just yet, but they are going to start rolling out as we get closer to the end of this month, which is May 2025. So at a high level, what was announced via this blog post that, again, I'll put in the show notes just so you can reference it yourself, is that as part of these new update initiatives is there's going to be improvements made to AI powered search. So this is the search and intelligence features that are available today through your Microsoft 365 Admin Center, which you as an administrator or as an organization have to actually tune those yourself by going in and making a number of different changes, adding acronyms, adding locations, and adding relevant data to make your Microsoft 365 SharePoint search and search across your entire tenant act better. There is a new create experience that's coming as well. And what this is aiming to do is just improve the overall ability to interact with Copilot and interact with your files. We saw that kind of in the last segment where I kind of talked about that create button on the sidebar of the enterprise version of Copilot. So there's some overall improvements coming there. And then one of my favorite features that's actually a returning feature is Copilot Notebook. So there was a notebook version in Copilot in the summer and fall months last year, and it was an early preview, gave you the ability to interact with Copilot through basically kind of like an evolving text box, which could take up to 48,000 characters. And it let you kind of continue a constant stream of thought with Copilot without having to see the responses layered on top of each other every time that you put a prompt in. This Copilot Notebook feature is going to be a little bit different than it was, but I'm excited to see this come back because I think this is one of the more powerful features in Copilot, especially for those kind of higher end, more experienced prompt-driven users. And then the last feature here, the last major feature that they're announcing at the top of this blog post is the new agent store. And again, Holly and I spent some time a couple of months ago looking at that functionality and how you can add agents into like Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, or even kind of that Copilot landing page through copilot.microsoft.com. And they are making some improvements here to make the agent finding and adding experience a little bit easier. So before we dive into the research and the analyst agents that are coming out, I did want to kind of give just a quick preview in the background here of the ever-evolving Microsoft 365 Copilot app experience. I feel like we are on our third or fourth iteration of this at this point, and this is just a constantly evolving experience. If you are a technology trainer, is things that like Holly and I do in our workshops and our individual training engagements, is this can be a little bit frustrating, but they are trying to continue to improve on this app and make it more user friendly. So in the background here, I'm playing a Microsoft Mechanics video through YouTube, but it's just kind of highlighting how they're moving some things around. So you can see from an agent perspective is they've moved the agents from the right side of the window, as well as your frequent chat, over to the left. There's also going to be some significant changes coming in this area where your chats are now pinned. Pages is going to start looking a little bit different. And they're moving the prompts that would typically sit kind of at the top above the prompt window. They now sit below it. So these are some big changes. If you're doing technology training or you're just rolling out Copilot today, there's things that you need to be aware of because these are going to be things that will affect the overall user experience, especially if you're just rolling Copilot out right now within your organization. Is your training is already going to be out of date. So keep in mind that you're going to want to update some things here. The overall core experience of Copilot, however, is going to function the same. So we're really just talking about moving some things from the right side of the page to the left in the app, and then moving some of those individual kind of prompt boxes around. So as we kind of continue on, I talked about the improvements to the search functionality. And what we're really seeing here is Microsoft taking a look at that default search and intelligence behavior, and they're weaving some of that into the Copilot app experience, but they're also giving it a generative AI approach as well. So previously you had to do a lot of definitions around what you were wanting to pop up within the organization, within those settings, within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. With some of these improvements, they're making it a little bit easier. I laugh too as I watch this video in the background, is some of the changes that they're making look very similar to some of the screenshots that were originally produced during the first year of Copilot that we never really kind of saw take wider adoption across the Microsoft 365 environment. So I'm happy to see that they're doing these AI overviews. If you click on one of these documents now, you don't have to go fully into it. You can actually get an AI overview of what the document is without having to open it all the way up. And that's going to make it easier to find what you're looking for, not only with previews, but with summaries of what's in the document. Now, this is all very demo heavy from a Microsoft standpoint as you're watching the video. So keep in mind, your results may vary compared to what you're seeing in the video or what you're listening to me talk about if you're listening to our audio only podcast. But overall, I think that the summaries on files and search is going to be a huge improvement for helping you find things faster. What I'm a little concerned about is how the results may vary based on, how strong your document is worded or how it's put together or how you're doing some formatting in there. So next up, we're taking a look kind of at the new agent experience, and there's not a huge change to how agents are operating today, but there is a change to how they're being displayed. So we've talked about before in the past the ability to kind of go in and create your own agents using Copilot Studio. What Microsoft is starting to introduce here is the researcher and the analyst agent, and what these are going to allow you to do is use kind of those O3 reasoning models that are part of OpenAI's ChatGPT integration and into integration with Microsoft 365 Copilot. And again, I kind of take it away when we're looking at creating an agent is when you're using that reasoning model, you're allowing Copilot to think deeper and perform more advanced and higher level tasks and research for you. This was previously baked in as that think deeper icon in Copilot, but due to the fact that I think a lot of people didn't necessarily understand when they should be using one or the other, Microsoft is starting to provide more customization within Copilot Studio. So something to think about too is when you're using those deeper thinking or deeper analysis models is they are burning hotter from a resource perspective. They're using more resources. It's more time intensive. So, and they also, there's some limitations there is as you're thinking deeper is it's doing more of that model analysis and less analysis on things like web sources, whether it be Bing search or a website that you provide. So it's just kind of a change to look at, but I'm very appreciative that Microsoft is giving you these models by default as pre-built search tools, but also giving you the ability to kind of go into Copilot Studio and do some additional configurations on those models so that you can not only say, hey, I specifically want to use a reasoning model, but I also want to point it at my data or different data sources to make it a more powerful experience. So the video kind of moves along here. We're talking about the create experience, and this is really kind of pulling in the Microsoft Designer piece. There's a web page right now where you can go to designer.microsoft.com. You can get a very similar output that you're seeing on the screen here, where it gives you the ability to kind of create images, but they're also merging that together with kind of that portal.office.com functionality where you can create documents, you can create PowerPoint presentations, as well as some of the new AI features that are starting to come to like Paint as well as Clipchamp and Microsoft Stream, the ability to kind of take things that you've already created, edit images using AI, remove things from the background, and then even create videos directly off of content that you've already created. Maybe you already have some video clips, you want to do some AI voiceovers on it, is you're getting all this functionality directly within the Copilot app. And again, I believe that what we'll see here is we'll see this come to the Microsoft 365 Copilot app. We'll see it come to the Windows Copilot app. We'll also end up seeing it come to that web-based version of Copilot at some point as well. But again, a lot of nice iterative improvements. The big thing to take into account, especially as a technical trainer, is this is going to change a lot of your training materials that you've already created. But this is something that, it's pretty typical. I think that with Copilot specifically, is it moves a lot faster than the Microsoft Office updates do. But if you're already updating for the new Outlook, if you're already updating your training for features coming to the new version of Microsoft Teams, this is going to be one more thing that you're going to want to spend time on, is updating the Microsoft Copilot documentation as well. So the final major piece here that we're talking about is the addition of notebooks. And again, this operates a little bit differently than the notebook functionality did when it was originally rolled out. But as you'll see here, is you're able to kind of create your own notebook. You get a prompt window. You're able to start talking back and forth with Copilot to chat about the contents of the notebook and things that you want to add to it. There's interoperability here with Copilot pages. And then there's also an audio feature that's coming. So if you've had the opportunity to listen in before on the background of what's been going on with different generative AI tools, such as Gemini, is the DeepMind experience that Google was putting out was the ability to basically put two kind of AI podcasters in a room, tell them what you wanted them to talk about, how long you wanted them to talk about it, and then you could just, basically create a podcast without an actual authentic podcaster being there. This is some of the functionality that it looks like is going to start coming into the Copilot area. Right now, the audio overview button is just a very high level kind of audio overview, but I would not be surprised to see Microsoft starting to kind of tread down that same path that both Google has, as well as some of the stuff that we're starting to see from Amazon and OpenAI with the ChatGPT individual apps. So that's kind of it for new features. There are some major features that are updates that are coming for IT admins as well. And we'll kind of talk through those as the video plays. And the big changes that we've talked about already is kind of the enhancements to Studio and agents and the Copilot control system. Some of the additions that they're making in this area is the ability to be able to track agent usage at a deeper level, to actually understand what agents are being used in the environment, how often are they being used, what type of queries are going into these agents. So you're going to get some more functionality from a reporting perspective, but you're also going to get more functionality from a control perspective as well. And I think that that's a huge plus. There still are improvements coming to the Copilot dashboard. What we're seeing on screen right now is kind of a new dashboard in Copilot Studio that shows user trends, prompt trends, response trends for all the individual agents that have been created or added within your environment. Some of the additional features, and you can see that this is being done through DSPM for AI, which is data security posture management for AI. But some of the additional functionality that's coming is also, as we're going to see here, improvements to Copilot dashboards and the Copilot reporting functionality behind the scenes in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, which, as you've heard me say many times, is probably one of the most lacking features of the Copilot experience right now, especially for adoption and IT admins trying to understand how is Copilot being used, what are users doing with it. So, I'm excited to see this stuff come out in this next wave, as well as I'm sure is every Copilot IT team or adoption team over time. So that's kind of a high-level review of everything that's new that's coming to Microsoft Copilot over the next couple of months. Again, it's the beginning of May right now as we're broadcasting this. If you're listening as this goes live, it's going up on May 5th. But a lot of this functionality probably is not going to start to roll out until later in May, early June, maybe even July for some of these features. We know that Microsoft Build is coming up here fairly soon towards the middle to end of May, as well as the Microsoft 365 Community Conference that's being held in Vegas. So I would not be surprised at all to see if there's even more functionality released to Copilot as time goes on. But yeah, this is just, again, high-level overview of the new agent store, the new search capabilities. Some of the things that we didn't go directly or too deeply into is the memory and the personalization options that are coming as well, where you can tell Copilot who you are, what you do, a little bit more background information to help Copilot be able to work with you easier and kind of understand previous context to questions that you've had, as well as the functions of your job role and what you're trying to get done, so you don't have to prompt it that way each time. We also talked about some of the changes that are coming with the create functionality, with some of the new designer functionality melded in, as well as portal.office.com, Clipchamp, and some of those audio overviews via notebooks, as well as the ability to kind of interact and skill Copilot a little bit differently. There is a lot more coming to Copilot Studio from a platform perspective, as well as the ability to monitor the agents that you create, the agents that are being used, and also kind of go deeper into the Copilot control system to further even lock down agents from a security perspective. Thanks again for tuning in this month. If you want to learn more about the recent Copilot Wave 2 announcements for spring 2025, you can visit the links in the show notes as always. If you have any questions or you need help with implementing or providing training around Microsoft 365 modern work, security, or Copilot features and services, Virteva is a leading IT managed service and security provider and can help you with all your IT needs. You can email us at letstalk@virteva.com or visit our website at www.virteva.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and if you made it this far, please don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons. It really helps us out. Have a great rest of your month. Take it easy.